you may know of. You may have even read the book by
Napoleon Hill,
entitled
Think and Grow Rich.
Now, doesn't it just stand to reason that if there's a book entitled Think and Grow Rich, that there could also be something that is Think and Grow Broke?
Interesting, right? Hello, I'm Linnetta.
I'm Patrick.
And together we are co-founders of
Vertical Connections, Inc.
Thank you for joining us once again. If you're new to this channel, please be sure to subscribe.
Yes.
Everyone, click the like button and share this message.
Also, we greatly appreciate when you leave comments, and we look forward to those in the future. The difference is, for most people, to think and grow rich, it entails being intentional. But to think and grow broke only requires us to neglect. So let's not neglect being intentional about our thoughts, because if we do, we might end up being one of those people who think and grow broke.
The kinds of thoughts we must avoid if we don't want to think and grow broke. Let's consider Earl Nightingale's quote where he said, thoughts are things and incredibly powerful things, and a man's thoughts are what he makes of it.
Now, just because we believe it, and we can believe it all day long, even all the way into tomorrow, just because we're continuously believing in it, doesn't mean that we're not lying to ourselves.
I'm a cat, I'm a cat, I'm a cat, I'm a dog, I'm a dog. No, can't be.
No. So what that means is anything we tell ourselves about a future outcome, we can make it up. You can say, I'm going to the grocery store, but really what we need to be saying or telling ourselves is that I intend to go to the grocery store.
There's no guarantee that we will get there. No. So we have to acknowledge that we have a need to be more hyper intentional.
Yes.
About our work, about our thoughts. If we're going to be hyper intentional about our thoughts, we must be hyper intentional about our words.
But what kind of words cause people to think and grow broke?
We must start with avoiding thinking from our past instead of thinking from our future. Most people take their past experiences and project it onto a screen of their future, then try to recreate the past and think they're living in the present, but what they're really doing is living what I recall the movie Groundhog Day, when he repeated everything over and over again. You don't ever move forward. You're not progressing.
Many people are living their yesterday today. They're living their last week this week and their last month this month. They're even going so far back as to living last year this year. But the problem with that is their life isn't getting any better.
Which goes against the very first thing that God ever said to the human being when he spoke to man in the book of Genesis. He said, be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth, subdue it, and have dominion.
To be fruitful, a fruit is a living organism whose seed is in itself, but the ability for the fruit to reproduce is inside of that seed.
So when God said to man, be fruitful, he wasn't just talking about having children. No. He was talking also about the aspect of creativity he places inside of us. It's amazing when you think about how he has put a different aspect of his creativity inside all of us. Some run better than others.
Some sing better than others.
Some write better than others.
Some even paint better than others. We need to remind ourselves God didn't put every aspect into all of us, but he did put an aspect in everyone. That aspect of his creativity is put inside of us. So it's our job to produce on the outside what God put on the inside.
But he said, be fruitful. The other interesting thing about a fruit is this. If that fruit is an apple, it has a seed in it. When you sow the seed, one piece of fruit doesn't grow out of the ground, but rather a tree comes out. Once it is mature, that tree might produce over 200 apples in a year.
In an earlier video, we shared a quote by Warren Wiersbe. And in that, Warren said that any man can count the number of seeds in an apple, but it is only God who can count the number of apples in a seed.
We must make sure that we cultivate the seed of creativity that God put inside of us so we can be fruitful. We can be fruitful. We can multiply. Remember, we reap what we sow, but we don't reap when we sow. You reap later than you sowed.
You reap what you sow, but you don't reap the amount you sow. You reap more than you sow.
And while we reap what we sow, we don't reap when we sowed it.
And you don't reap what you sow. You reap more than you sowed, later than you sowed. God said to be fruitful and multiply.
Why?
Because multiplication is a natural output of the input of fruitfulness.
All right now. So when God said be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, and then subdue it.
What does that mean?
Right? It means to trample down, stomp on it. Which means trample down on any distractions or anything that tries to stop you.
When God says to trample it, that means whatever opposes us is beneath us and smaller than us. If He told us to trample it, it just means that we have the ability to trample it.
Now, all we have to do is take action. Step on all the distractions. We have to be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. We need to live our lives being progressively productive.
We're supposed to be progressively productive. We shouldn't be living Groundhog Day.
No.
Today should be better than yesterday, and this week should be better than last week. This month should be better than last month, and of course this year is going to be better than last year.
Yes. Stop thinking from the past. The past is nothing more than a slingshot for the future. Treat it like that. We need to make sure we don't allow our past to imprison our future, pushing us into a life of lack and limitations.
Another point that we need to consider is thinking that you are less than your challenges. You will never face anything that's bigger than you if you are operating based on the kingdom's principles. When we hear kingdom's principles, we think of
God's kingdom. He has established His kingdom here on earth as it is in heaven.
Nothing's bigger than you. You are going to face challenges, but the challenges aren't bigger than you.
We have to let go of yesterday if we're going to take hold of today.
Yes.
If we're going to march forward, we've got to understand that we are bigger than our challenges.
Another thought of staying broke is thinking negatively when you should be thinking positively. Some people can see the obstacle in every opportunity. They can see the defeat in every victory. They can see the downside in every upside. They can even see when they are on top of the world and they feel like it's coming down on them.
Sounds like Eeyore.
Eeyore always had that presence of, it's the end of the road and no hope in getting any better, for sure.
And that is how we are thinking that we should live our lives, with that kind of attitude?
No.
If we're going to put our effort into something and we're going to work on something, we cannot afford the luxury of a negative thought life. If we're going to write a book, we can't afford to think we're not going to sell it. If we're going to build a business, we can't afford to think we're not going to have clients. Some people even go so far as to avoid getting married because they think they're going to end up with a divorce.
There are times when thinking negatively is appropriate, though.
Really? When is the best time for that?
The best time to think negatively is when things are positive. This is what it says in Proverbs 6, verses 6 through 8.
Oh, that's when the ant is working through the summer.
It is,
okay,
it is.
No vacation. All right. Okay, it says, go to the ant. O you sluggard, consider her ways, be wise, without having any chief, officer, or ruler. She prepares her bread in summer and gathers her food in harvest.
So that ant thinks winter all summer long.
So what does think negative when things are positive truly mean?
It means when things are going well, you have to be preparing for when things aren't going to be going well. When you are having 7 years of plenty, you have to be preparing for the 7 years of famine. So,
how do you do that?
Here's what God told Joseph to tell Pharaoh when things were going really well.
He said to put back 1/5 of everything. What is that 1/5 part? It's 20%.
Yes.
When things are going great, stash 20%. hold on to 20%. Because when the whole bottom falls out, the entire world is scattered to and fro, we will be settled because we were proactive in preparing throughout the year, no matter the season.
You have to think negatively when things are positive. If when you look at an opportunity you only see the good in it, you're probably going to end up broke. You must believe it will work though. So take into consideration that there are some consequences that may arise, and if it does, then you have to be prepared for it. Don't miss out on the big picture.
When we think negatively, when things are negative, and positive when things are positive, we need to flip the script. You have to think negatively when things are positive.
Right.
And you have to think positively when things are negative.
Negative thinking when things are negative can't help you. And only thinking positive thinking when things are positive will hurt you. It's like the person who goes on a long trip and they've got a brand new car and they don't think anything's going to happen to that car. So they just go and set out on that trip, and all of a sudden they find out that they've got a flat tire. Now how can you have a flat tire on a new car? The way that happens is by not being prepared. Because it can hinder you and set you back completely if you are not going out there with a spare and a jack. So prepare yourselves rather than thinking that it's not going to happen to you.
The best way to create wealth is to create value for other people. That value must be greater than the money they must pay for the thing you created for them. There's no dishonesty in that because everybody wins.
Right. The last thought deals with thinking that poverty is piety. People think that the broker you are, the holier you are. That is not true. Poverty does not equal piety.
All right. When you do the opposite of things that can't make you rich, those things can make you broke, such as lying,
stealing,
cheating,
defrauding.
But when you do the things that make you rich, like serving people,
providing value,
telling the truth,
being on time,
and having character, those are the things that make you rich. When you do the opposite of those things, they can make you broke.
So let's not be the kind of people that don't think and then go broke. Because we neglect to intentionally think and grow rich, think and get better.
Think and grow smarter.
Think and grow healthier.
And think and grow better relationships. Let's become the kind of people who are intentional, so our life gets better, because improvement requires intention.
We hope this helps you and gives you some food for thought. But until next time,
get connected to
go vertical. Bye-bye.